All right, ladies and germs, Gridiron 360. Again, we are talking free agency, NFC East. And we have come to the fourth team in the division, the Philadelphia Eagles. They will be picking in this year's draft at number 21. They have the 18th most cap space, so kind of right there at the halfway mark in the entire league, and that is at $42 million.
Now, mind you, this is always, and probably should mention this on everyone, but this is always flexible. They have plans, and we mentioned in the first podcast when the cuts happen and all those timelines. So these are subject to move, but what we've got as of right now is where they're at. So we'll see if they make some moves ahead of time. But because and the reason I bring this up specifically with them is they've actually had two recent transactions of starters that they've had, one on defense and Nigel Bradham, their outside linebacker. He is not going to be re-signed. They've already come out and said that. And also their left tackle, Jason Peters, I believe he was a cut casualty. So he's added some dollars back to this with his contract.
Peters got a little banged up at the end of the year, so that might be part of it. But the guy that came in for him, Vaitai, didn't do so great. He's technically a guard, but he came in because Peters was out.
Yep.
Didn't do so great. He's also on the free agency block. It looks, in my mind, you're talking offensive line, D tackle, secondary. Those are some needs that I think they have right now, especially secondary because, the skinny on the Eagles, especially if you're a fantasy football player, is play your quarterback and wide receivers against that defense. Their secondary is not so great.
Yep.
So, going through some of the free agents that they have right now, you already mentioned Bradham and Peters. The first three I'm going to throw out there, all secondary guys.
Yep.
And Malcolm Jenkins at free safety, Rodney McLeod at free safety, and probably the best secondary guy they have is Ronald Darby at cornerback.
Yep.
So that's a big one. Yep. Outside of that, defensively, you got Vinny Curry at D end on the chopping block, Jernigan D tackle on the chopping block. Who else? You got Hassan Ridgeway at D tackle.
Interesting will be Jordan Howard too. They made that trade last year with the Bears, didn't give up a huge draft pick.
Yep.
That was kind of part of their thunder and lightning, and there was probably 3 games this year where Jordan Howard carried them, including a 3 touchdown performance. And now they're going to, all they've got now is the smaller young back in Miles Sanders. That's really
well. They have Corey Clement. He's a free agent, but he's on it. And then
Sproles is retiring, right?
Sproles, I think so.
I think he announced he was going to retire.
He's definitely a free agent, so I wouldn't surprise. The other defensive back that they have on the chopping block of note, Jalen Mills. They have Craig James. Jalen Mills was a starter at cornerback. Look again, these guys that are in their secondary, they're the free agents. That was a weakness of the team last year. So the desire to re-sign those guys would, in my mind, be that the team, the coaching staff, saw improvement towards the end of the year and think they could build on that moving forward.
Yep.
But if they didn't see that, shoot, all these guys, sans Darby, I'd try to re-sign him, could be gone.
Yep. And again, just to maybe a couple more pieces, too, on offense. I already mentioned Jordan Howard, but some things to think about. You got Josh McCown. I understand how old he is, but the fact is that Wentz struggles to make it through a season, so they're going to have to get a backup quarterback. And McCown is retired, too, I believe.
They try to bring Foles back.
Yeah, but that's a a big number.
It is a big number. But
so you got, and you just re-upped.
He's already, Philadelphia and that fan base is just a pain in the ass. But that guy got him. That guy got him through a Super Bowl. So they might be. It might not. The money might not matter to the fan base. I know that they're not paying it, but they might like it.
They don't. It's just they don't have a lot to work with. Given and on top of that, you got to add in Nelson Aguilar. And I will say this, while he is by no means a superstar, and he was getting about $2 million. The Eagles have struggled mightily with keeping their receivers healthy. I mean, I can't remember a game after like week 3 where Jeffrey Aguilar and Deshaun Jackson all saw time together. Yep. I don't know that they did, and and you got I'll tell you, I know a lot about Jeffries. He's a soft tissue guy. The guy has a soft tissue injury constantly. Again, I'm not saying he's a wimp, but he does have issues with that. I would almost venture to say Aguilar was their most dependable from a standpoint of health.
Yeah.
And so you got him going. So obviously they've got they're really strong at tight end with Ertz and Goddard. That's a good pair, probably one of the best in the league as a combo.
I hear you. I mean, we went through this at the end of our podcast and at the end. Are they who we thought they were? And in regards to Carson Wentz.
Well, yeah. Well, okay.
I mean,
yeah.
And this is a big thing, man. Like, is Wentz,
or any of your receivers who they thought they were if your quarterback's not who you thought they were.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, like, is Wentz the guy? I mean, he shows flashes. He's a tough kid. He's had injury problems every year. And, there's games where I've seen him play. Shoot, the Falcon game they lost where I thought he played phenomenally. He was the whole team because everybody was hurt or what have you. But then there's other games where the pieces are there and he just disappears. And I'm not sure whether he's it. And they're going to give him, obviously another year. They're not going out to hunt down another quarterback. But if this isn't happen this year, if they take major steps back, they might be in the game for a Trevor Lawrence next year.
Yeah. The question. Well, here, let me say this. Nobody. This is just my personal opinion. You have a little bit more at stake. If I was going to go arrow up, and pick my teams in the NFC East, and let's be honest, everybody pretty much penciled in whoever won the NFC East to lose in the first round in the playoffs,
right?
Because this was
garbage.
It was a bad. The only team that right now pre-free agency in my mind that's arrow up right now is the Giants. Washington, until they start making some serious vision vision displays of what they're trying to do and solves their quarterback problem, I struggle to put them arrow up. They're probably flatline, but when you're number 2, that's not good. And Dallas and Philadelphia are aging, and they got decisions to make at tough positions. And I don't know. I got to look at Wentz's contract, but you also got to worry about what they gave him. You can't necessarily just cut everybody because you end up with a lot of dead money. And we're not talking about a team that's in the upper echelon of cap space. We're talking about a team that's in the middle to the bottom half. So this is where it's going to get real interesting.
Before any re-signings happen.
Right. So you got, again, I think they are going, they're probably a team, if they don't fall this year, I would say they're ripe to fall next year as far as having to go through a rebuild because they're just aging. Like, I can't think of a position where they are young and talented. I think they're talented at tight end. I wouldn't necessarily call him young. Goddard's so-so, but if Goddard becomes explosive, then Ertz might become expendable, so you lose him. They're not young at receiver and explosive at receiver to me. Quarterback, maybe. They are young, but if it's the guy. O-line, you're seeing them losing guys like Peters. They might be all right on O-line. Look at their D tackles. They got a tremendous D tackle in Spencer Cox, but
Fletcher Cox. Man, I'm so bad with the names. But with Fletcher Cox, but he's not a spring chicken. You're only going to get so much out. And now they're taking, you can see they got, 3 deep tackles? Yeah.
Jernigan was a rotational, but a decent rotational guy. That's some losses. And then you've already got a secondary that's kind of been a joke. Yeah. So you start adding all that together, and they are going to have to be really smart. I think they're going to have to make what I would look for if I was an Eagles fan, and I would want, and this is a tricky thing to do, is you got to hit on a lot of 1-year prove-it deals because they got just too many holes. Because they're going to have to sign some big names somewhere.
Well, if he's willing to do another 1-year deal and Ndamukong Suh's out there, and, he's been doing 1-year deals the past, 2-3 years. That's why if he's willing to, he may be to the point where, I'm done with that because he's getting older and he wants some more guarantee behind it. But I'll be honest with you, as much of an issue as the guy may be character-wise, and he was really big coming out of college, and he did, sometimes you saw what you expected to see. Sometimes you're like, where is he? Past 2 seasons, between Tampa Bay and the Rams, they had some of the best run defenses in the league.
Yep.
And he has a lot to do with that, bro. Yep. He has a lot to do with that.
Yep.
No, regardless of what you may say, He is a force to be reckoned with inside in terms of stuffing the run. Hard to stop him. Hard to block him. He's just so big. So, that could be a guy if he's willing to go 1-year deal again. That's the biggest question. He's been playing that for a couple years now, and with his age, he might not want to do that because if it's a 1-year deal and, he doesn't play phenomenally, then he's going to, have to take less money the following year.
I think the key is, and what's helped him is he is not needed to be the man. He does come with personality issues. I look at a Clinton Dix like last year with the Bears. He was a 1-year prove it deal. That's all the Bears are going to give him. I don't necessarily see him re-signing him. I'm just using him as like an example.
Yeah.
I think they're going to have to do that in some of the secondary, probably at the safety position. I think they're going to really have to start drafting defense because they put themselves in that position now. So that's going to be kind of the interesting part with them is to see what they do. And they don't have the greatest draft position because, even though they had a bad year, they ended up in the playoffs. So that puts them at the bottom of the playoff teams, which, is what, like probably, I don't have it in front of me, but it's probably like a 20 somewhere in there.
He's at 21. It's
21.
right there.
Oh, did I write it down?
21.
No, I'm good like that. I wrote that down last time. So, I don't know. I think, like I said, I think Dallas and Philadelphia are arrows pointing closer to a rebuild than anything else. They're going to have to be very, very creative, like I said, with these prove-it deals and hit. You got to hit on them, too. That's the other big part of this. So, because you're not going to be able to stack your team the way you want to. So, it'll be interesting to see what they do. They just re-upped, Wentz. What's he got? 2 years of a 6-year deal, I think. Is this his second year in the deal? Maybe it's only his first that just passed. That's going to be tough. I think Philadelphia's in trouble. And again, you go back to the fan base. The fan base is not – they don't accept much.
No, they're not. They're not very tolerant.
No.
And if it starts to continue to go sideways, it's going to be ugly for the coach. It's going to be ugly for Wentz.
Yeah.
But I don't know, man. I think that you could see them do what I feel like they've done every year, and in one of the later rounds, take a running back. Because they always seem to do that and then have like a bevy of running backs and they go by committee. And I don't know if that's the right thing. I think that the NFL is becoming a lot more of this shared backfield situation for most teams. And I still don't think that's the way. I just don't. I think you need to have a 3-down back and have another back to come in. Maybe have 2 more. One to come in and spell him that is more like your lead back, and then another guy when you need in 3rd down pass catching situations. Yeah. But you'd be better off if you could find a guy that can go 3 downs and be a pass catcher.
Yeah, well, I think what happened, again, I look at the Bears as an example when they were very successful 2 years ago, had Jordan Howard, and they had their little guy in Tyreek Cohen. And the problem with that is if you don't have the guys out there playing a full set of downs, you start to show your packages and where you're going. And they got found out real fast this year. Now they traded away Howard, but they used Montgomery much the same, even though he's really built to be a 3-down back. And it didn't work because you just show your offense. And I agree with you. I think that they're going to be in trouble if they go that route.
Yeah, but I see that is something they're going to probably do. I can't see them fixing that in free agency, like re-sign Corey Clement or any of these other running backs out there. That would be something that they would devote to the draft. Yeah. To your point, I think they have so many holes on defense. But let me go back to that. Here's my issue. They need the premier back. I think if they got a premier back, if they had the Giants have Saquon.
Do you think there's any chance that Miles Sanders could become the premier back? I guess that's an important thing. Can he be the guy?
I don't know, man, because he doesn't.
Out of him?
You got to be able to run between the tackles. I don't care what today's offensive game in the NFL is becoming. You got to be able to run the ball between the tackles, man. You got to.
Okay.
I mean, look at our Super Bowl teams. Those are teams that, look, they did. The Chiefs didn't do a lot of running, but when they did, they could send a guy up the middle. Certainly the 49ers had that all over the board.
Yep.
Okay? You got to be able to run the ball. And I just feel like Sanders is he's just not big enough. and he's really quick and fast. But that those skills in the NFL, everybody's fast. Those skills can only go so far, and he's more suited for get him outside, throw him the ball, have him run the ball outside, then get up between the tackles. And you need that guy. I mean, look, again, Saquon in this division, you've got Saquon Barkley, you've got Zeke Elliott.
Yep.
I'm not even going to mention the Redskins, okay? So you need to match that. Those teams and all the teams in the NFC East have, in my mind, young quarterbacks that still need time. There's still maybe some question marks. But what they do have, two of those teams do have, is solid running. We just talked about how Dallas screwed up by not using the guy that's the best player on their offense and that commanded all that money. I mean, like, you got to find a way. And I'll even go to my Giants. I said it when we were talking about them. They need to find a way to have Daniel Jones and Saquon Barkley clicking at all times. It can't be, okay, this game, Jones threw for so much, it was great. Saquon did diddly. And then this game, Saquon had over 100 yards. Jones had 3 picks. Can't have it. It's got to go together as one.
Yep.
And, they'll find a way to, that's coaching. They'll find a way to do that. But, I think a team like Philadelphia, if Wentz is their guy, or they continue to think, they've got to put something behind him. They've got to put something behind him that he can really trust.
So if you're the Philadelphia Eagles, we've obviously talked about where they need help. You're going first, second round. Give me what would you go? Player, person. You don't have to give me a person, but just what is going to spin this team into
it's hard because obviously it all depends on how the draft falls, right? So what's available, but I'm kind of.
I'm going to assume you can get a starter out of first and second round.
I'm going to lean kind of the way you were talking. I think that they're going to try to hit on a receiver in the first round.
Okay.
I think they will.
And with the potential, be tough on. You're talking about Judy and Lamb being gone. Just based off what they're saying right now, that's all subject to change.
He could be there,
T. Higgins.
but they've got Alshon, and that's the same player. I mean, he's a tall boundary guy.
Go up and get it, guy.
He's a younger version, and he's good. I love T. Higgins, but I think they need
a little more flash and dash.
Yes, a Judy, a CD Lamb, somebody like that. Now, there's guys out there. They might decide based on how it falls, hey, maybe one of these really good running backs is out there. Maybe we go there, and then the second round try to pick up someone like a Denzel Mims from Baylor, who is very flashy. Or you got the kid out of what's the kid from Brandon Ayuk from Arizona State.
Yep.
There's some play, or maybe though he has a little injury issue, our boy Laviska Shenault from Colorado.
Yep.
Who is kind of the taller guy too, but he is a force. I don't know. I don't know.
Do you think it's offense, both positions? Would you go that? Would you go that route for you personally?
If they lose Jason Peters, I feel like they might have to go, and based on where they sit at 21, might have good option of offensive line.
Yep, yeah, they could go.
That would be, I think, what I would know. Is that exciting, sexy? No, but that's, I think, based on what they're looking at, they're going to need it, and then they try to fill from there. If they do, obviously with any team, it's all based on, the dominoes falling, as you said. In free agency, if you see them start to roll with defense, start picking up a bunch of players to fill their voids on defense, then I could feel much better about them starting to go offense as in the draft.
All right, so if they go, let's say they go that route. Let's just say they go offense. It'll be either offensive line. We'll say offensive line, running back, receiver, some trio of that.
Yeah, I would see
two of the three.
If they go offensive line the first round, I think they go defense, or they would, if they were going that way, it would be running back next.
Okay, so if they do something like that, where do you go spend your big money on free agency if you're them? You're gonna go after one bigger contract. I'm not saying it's gonna be an elite level player, but where would you go with them?
Well, I would say try to shore up their secondary, maybe re-sign Darby and see if they're, like I said, there's a lot of guys with out there at safety, and you got a lot of guys. Even at DN, you could go get if they have the money, Everson Griffin from Minnesota's an edge rusher.
Yeah, it's probably going to be one of their bigger
right,
costs.
Right.
Yep.
So you could go that route, but again, their front was pretty good. So I think if they spend defensively, it'll be linebacker secondary, mostly secondary, I would believe, in free agency.
All right, so and then let me ask you one last question. So of all the guys we've talked about, obviously we've hit much of the bigger names. If you're an Eagle, management, which guy are you prioritizing re-signing out of the guys we got on that list?
I say Darby.
Okay.
Guy like Timmy Jernigan, I think is really worthwhile. Josh McCown.
I don't know that is he.
I don't think he'll cost that much, dude. And he'll, I think you could pay him enough to come back. Because that's the real question: is it worth it? It's not worth it for him.
Yeah, he's a $2 million cap hit, but but the guy. I have to say this: of all the guys, he has never been better than really a backup. But he's always been a very solid.
If you look across the league, he could be one of the best backups in the league.
If you're going out there and truly trying to sign a backup as opposed to a guy that's going to compete for your job,
here's the thing:
or even have a chance to compete.
When they signed him at the beginning of the year, he was coaching like kids or something. And what was
Mind you, he's been doing that since like 92.
Yeah, and he was coaching. He was coaching the quarterback position. So this is a guy in my mind that it goes beyond his skills because his skills are limited with his age and his athleticism, but it's his mind.
Well, he understands who he is.
Yeah,
he's very self-aware.
He's a smart guy. He knows the game. That's very hard to do. Like in a quick situation. His mind is going to get him out of it, not his athleticism.
All right.
And so that's a guy I think they should focus on re-signing.
Okay.
So D-line, maybe a guy like Ronald Darby and a guy like him would be, I think, very good to bring back in. Now, keep in mind, Nate Sudfeld is a younger backup they have.
Yep.
And he's on the free agency block, and I would still take McCown over him.
All right. Well, good talk, Russ. That's good stuff.
Yeah, I mean, that's just the way it is. I think that, again, I said it when we started this. If they believe they saw some progress in that secondary they can build off of, then maybe focus on bringing some of those, because Malcolm Jenkins, Darby, you got McLeod, you got, what's his name down here, Jalen Mills. Then if you think those guys are going to be able to get it done, because their secondary was poor. It was probably the weakest part of their team.
I think there's more youth. I mean, you're talking about Jenkins 32. What is McLeod 30? Like, these are guys. I think there is going to be guys that have the potential to, with a play it deal. Those guys are playing to get a contract to finish out their career. Maybe as opposed to somebody like I look at, like, again, I use Dix because he's a perfect example. He was the kind of guy that was looking to get the next big contract. So his prove it was much better than just trying to stay around. He was trying to earn a bigger dollar. So I think they can find maybe some younger guys, particularly in the safety spot.
Well, I mean, like I said, like Jalen Mills, he's a corner, but he's only 26.
Yeah. Question is, maybe they go after someone like Byron Jones.
Yeah.
Like
bring him over from the competition.
Yeah. I mean, again, you hurt your rivals. That's possibly a play there.
Yeah.
All right. Good stuff. I like it.
All right. So that is the NFC East. And we will, I guess maybe we'll go like NFC North next. Talk about your division. How about that, my friend? Gridiron 360. We'll see you as always
on the gridiron.
Yeah.